Mr. Speaker, as the Constitution says, we derive our authority from the people. And that authority, universal suffrage, was exercised in the last general election, and that is we are here. So I want to thank him. I can see he still has the same energy. When we were growing up, we used to watch him, very vibrant. And that vibrancy has never left him. We used to be called Mulamwamba. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, whether he still eats crocodiles, but maybe he can tell us in camera when we are in your office having tea.
Did you say Mura?
Mulamwamba.
Mwamba?
Yes. Mulamwamba, sorry. the crocodile eater. So he's done an exceptional work, Mr. Speaker. And I think this is important, Mr. Speaker, and congratulate him. This bill, Mr. Speaker, is a straightforward bill. I remember there was a time, Mr. Speaker, in the last session where we are trying to come up with Committee of Implementation. I note that National Assembly has Committee on Implementation, Mr. Speaker, and therefore to follow up on some of the resolutions, Mr. Speaker. As has been said, and I note the change of speakership on the seat, Senator Wakili Hilary Sigei, the distinguished Senator of Bomet, and my lawyer on record on other matters. So, Mr. Speaker, what I was just saying is that sometimes the only thing that has a binding effect is the legislation, because we put some of the consequences that if you fail to follow, it becomes a problem, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill tries to enrich the role that has been, Mr. Speaker. When you look under Article 115 of the Constitution, on 117, sorry, of the Constitution, it talks about powers and privileges and immunities that we get as Parliament, Mr. Speaker. There shall be freedom of speech and debate in Parliament. Number 2, Parliament may, for the purposes of the orderly and effective discharge of the business of Parliament, provide for the powers, privileges, and immunities of Parliament, its committees, the leader of majority party, the leader of the minority party, the chairpersons of the committees and members. So, Mr. Speaker, this genesis of the power that Senator Danson Mungatana is trying to derive from is derived under the Constitution under Article 117. Because we are given the power to legislate, Mr. Speaker. This one tries to ensure that resolutions, because the only binding effect, Mr. Speaker, is only on legislation. But when the committee goes and sits about a statement, there are resolutions, Mr. Speaker, that are made by the committee. When there is a motion, there is a resolution when they adopt a motion on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. There is other matters that we adopt in the House, Mr. Speaker. Many reports and messages that are adopted in the House. But at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, no one asks about it. They get a dust. There is a famous, Mr. Speaker, a famous saying in this country that the reports are gathering dust somewhere in some of the offices, Mr. Speaker. This bill will ensure that is cured, Mr. Speaker, because the definition of responsible officer in ensuring. So, Mr. Speaker, for example, when we pass a resolution or adopt a report, in the last session we adopted a report on land historical injustice against the Talai community in Nandi and across the Kenya. For example, in that report, when I was a Chailak Jaya, there was a number of issues that we raised under Talai and their forceful eviction, Mr. Speaker, from Nandi and be taken to other parts, including Kericho and part of Luo Nyanza, Mr. Speaker. And that report we did recommend that the National Land Commission will issue orders of resurveying and providing alternative land and compensation. No one followed. We went ahead, Mr. Speaker, and said there should be affirmative action to ensure that the Talai community that have settled somewhere in Talai, near my place, Sironoi, Mr. Speaker, they must be given alternative land. National Commission was directed, Mr. Speaker, that the county government and national government should take affirmative action of employing some of the children and sons of Talai community, Mr. Speaker. That one was never done. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, on that report, because I'm just using an example so that members can get me